Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.
Welcome everyone to Sparking Change with Gigi. I am your host, Giovanna Tartarone, and today's show we're going to be talking about transforming your beliefs, the missing piece in changing your life. I love this topic because truly for me, once I've transformed my beliefs about what I can do in my life, I became a different person. And I'm sharing, I'm bringing two special guests on the show. One is my instructor who really helped me to be who I am here today. So I owe a lot to her. And another friend, Tanya, who also is using a special process that we're going to be talking about today, that she sees a lot of people being transformed as well through this process. So I'm going to welcome Joanne McSweeney and Tanya. Welcome, Tanya Kendall. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Thank you for joining me today. Like I said, Joanne, you have absolutely changed my life when you introduced this to me. As my instructor, I have you in my heart forever, ever, for sure. But, I want to, and Tanya, I love, the fact that you're using this in your practice. So I want to be able to just talk a little bit about, first, about your journey finding PSYCH-K. For me, I found it, and it has absolutely made me a different person. And most of my viewers know my story, but as a cancer survivor, I needed to really understand how I can move forward in life, because I'm not the cancer. I am Giovanna Tartarone, and I needed to embrace who I am authentically in order to really be the best that I can be and enjoy this life we have here. So that's my story. And now I help women, through this process and life coaching to also connect to their true self so they can live life to the fullest. So Joanne, I'll start with you. If you can share us your story a little bit, how PSYCH-K came into your life and what you're doing to help this world.
Thank you, Giovanna. It is an honor to be here and sharing this passion of mine. I actually started searching for the answers to life at the very young age of 17 after my father passed away, and began learning all about the subconscious mind and beliefs like Giovanna talked about, and programming and mind over matter, and basically spent almost 30 years reading and searching and downloading tons and tons of wisdom and knowledge. But what I didn't have was a true change in my life. I'd gathered all this information, but didn't have the life experience from the wisdom, until I actually read Biology Belief for the second time by Dr. Bruce Lipton. And at the end of that book, I'll never forget the day I'll never forget the day that I actually, heard him say those words. It was actually an audio program that I was listening to. And at the end, Bruce had described that PSYCH-K was his preferred method to change and to achieve what he described as heaven on earth. So that certainly struck a chord with me and awakened all of the, sensory cells in my body when I sat down at the computer and Google searched PSYCH-K. Since I had searched for decades and never heard of it before, it spoke to me, and I immediately signed up for a workshop back in 2015. And I can honestly say that leaving that 3-day workshop, I was forever changed. It changed the trajectory of my life forever. And I came home from that workshop a different person and started working with friends and family. And to my amazement, they were having these incredible shifts. And then 2 years later, in 2017, I was honored to be certified by the originator of PSYCH-K, Rob Williams. And I've been teaching the workshop, since then. And it's my passion and calling. Love to witness people step into their power, to erase their limiting beliefs and empower themselves with self-enhancing and supporting, solution oriented is what PSYCH-K is. So thank you for having me.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you, Joanne. And I definitely will agree that reading Bruce Lipton's book had opened up a whole new world for me as well. And Rob's book, The Missing Piece in Your Life, this is another book that he wrote. It's just, I went to school for, I stopped counting, but over 20 years to get my master's degrees. And this was not in any of the 1,000 and 1,500 books that I read. So it's definitely life-changing when you get into this material and start to study who we are, right? And what we can do. And Tanya, welcome.
Hi, thank you for being here. I want to say hello to Joanne. She is my instructor as well. So lovely connection. But I started my journey with psychology right out of high school. So going to college for theater and diving very deep into curiosity about humans. And, a lot of what we see in art is mimicked by reality. So this mixture of art and psychology, just trying to understand human nature, really drove me to psychology and moving forward with that. And I studied everything, like years and years of studying many different types of psychology, from the traditional Freudian to Jungian to cognitive behavioral to family systems, to all the new stuff that came out just over and over and over. And what I realized was there wasn't a lot out there that helped move past. Once we brought awareness into the picture, there wasn't a process or anything to move us past. Just like, okay, I understand it, I cognitively get it, but I still feel it. It's still here. I can't get these beliefs to go anywhere. And, therapy becomes years and years and years. And I just kept saying to myself, like, there has to be more than this. There has to be an easier way. Like we're divinely here. There has to be something that we can shift this in a simpler way without years of therapy. In 2015, I had my daughter and went through a very traumatic childbirth, as well as some complications with that. And after that, no matter how much I'm right in the middle of my doctorate program, I have thousands of medical residents surrounding me. Every doctor you could think of to my left and my right, and I'm going through this massive postpartum depression and anxiety, and felt like I was just gone. Like there was nothing I had learned was helping me to really connect with my subconscious and move through some of the trauma that was coming up from years before. And so I started my search, and that's when I found Bruce Lipton and started to really dive into as we call it, the geeking out of the science of all of this, and how it made so much sense from his perspective to bring that science part into understanding what's really going on with our beliefs, and merging those two communities, the spiritual and the science, into one, was just breathtaking. And so at the end, when he mentioned PSYCH-K, first thing I did was get on the computer and Google, and found Joanne. I found her drive away and started kind of setting up the process from there. But this is what I tell a lot of my clients about PSYCH-K. One of the things I love is it's something that, for me, it has to start with me. Like, it started with me. I had to transform my life. I couldn't just learn the material and teach it. Right. It's that process of really you become
embodying it. Yes.
And then you can move through like bringing it to other people, like, and using it to help. But you have to go through the process first. There's no getting away from it. You can't sit there and just be a participant or just be an observer. You know,
Right.
you really go through that process, and that's when I fell in love with it, because it was no more just somebody sitting up there saying, oh, this theory works. Oh, this theory works. Oh, this theory works. It's like, no, you're diving in the deep end now. Experience it. So at first, before I even brought it, you know, to my clients, I used it for myself, and in transforming my life and transforming my connection with my daughter, my connection with my family, and our lives. Were here on a 21-acre farm, just because.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things, you know, it just happens. And when you're aligning with, you know, what is in your purpose, certain things fall into place. So I'm here because of so much of PSYCH-K, because I knew it was already in there. I just needed a process to bring it out. And now I am a licensed clinical psychologist. So I have been licensed since 2017, and working in the field. And I own my own practice in Zelienople, Pennsylvania, which is outside of Pittsburgh, where I see clients outside of the realm of insurance, because we do some deep diving work into the subconscious, and if the clients are ready. So this is a big part of how I integrate the psychological piece of my traditional work and the newer pieces with PSYCH-K and things into it, is really the readiness of the client, the readiness of them. And if they are at that place where they're ready to really experience, right, that resistance kind of is at the place where they trust the connection, and they trust the openness to say, okay, I'm really ready to experience. It's beautiful. PSYCH-K is a beautiful addition to allowing them to really get back into their body and experience that self-healing from the inside.
From within, exactly. And I really think, I know from experience as well, that this is all an inside job. If you want to change your life, it has to be an inside job. Why? Because all our experiences are, especially the ones that give us an emotional impact, are in the subconscious mind. And this is where the change needs to occur. You know, I have this figure, I don't know if I was showing you before, but I have this figurine because, and this is the fascinating part that I learned as well. We don't have a picture of the mind. We don't have a picture of the mind. We know what the brain looks like. It's physical, but the mind is not physical. And this picture here is a picture of your mind. This is what my mentor taught me, Bob Proctor. And this is your conscious mind, and these are your five senses. This is your subconscious mind, which is the emotional mind, where the emotions are held. This is where your heart is. So all the traumas that we've had in our life are held in a stored computer, if you may, right? It's stored in files of all the events that happened in our lives, which that's where the healing needs to occur. And until that happened for me, I wasn't able to open up, to accept the good that life brings, because I was holding a lot of anger and all the negative emotions, right? So that is the key to changing our lives, is changing our beliefs that are stored in our subconscious mind. And some of the beliefs are not even ours. We inherited because of our community, our environment, our families. And so we believe things that we never really experienced, but they were just carried forward. So let's talk about PSYCH-K. Like, what is PSYCH-K, Joanne?
What is PSYCH-K? PSYCH-K is a gift to humanity. That's what PSYCH-K is. I truly, truly believe that through and through. It has been my experience, the fastest way to be able to change the subconscious, as Giovanna was talking about. It's actually a spiritual process that allows us to download new information and self-enhancing beliefs and desires into our subconscious in a matter of minutes. So it's a very fast process that allows you to take your power back, allows you to move beyond the self-imposed limitations, so many things at the unconscious level, and really be able to step into what it is that you want to be in the experience of. So you get to basically design the life that you choose when you understand the innate power and wisdom within you. So what I say in the simplest of ways, what PSYCH-K actually offered me was it allowed me to discover me. It gave me access to who I am at all levels. So it's a process that helps people to really step into their power and just as Tanya had said too, it's way beyond anything that I had ever experienced before, as far as quickness, effectiveness, and immediate change. The change can be felt instantaneously, and it can evolve over time. PSYCH-K was, it was brought to this beautiful planet through Rob Williams, the originator, in 1988, who also was a licensed psychologist, and who also mimicked what Tanya had said about his frustration of, talking and him not really seeing the results of the talk therapy and helping those that came to him. Right. And when this process was introduced into his practice, he was realizing and experiencing remarkable results in 1 to 3 sessions. They were not even needed to come back to see him. So it truly is a profound, very simple yet highly effective process that allows us to gain access to us and the programs that are running below the conscious level of awareness.
Tanya, let's talk about some of those programs that most of us carry, right? Most of us, because I think in life, no one escapes trauma in their life.
No.
No one, and if you do, I think, who was it that said, I think it was Eckhart Tolle that said, if you experience just, great things, your life, childhood and coming up to, your adult years, he says, you have more problems because you don't know how to handle the problems.
Yeah.
So therefore, no one can escape traumas in their life, especially childhood traumas. And we don't think about it. And we say, we're over it. We forgot about it. It's done and over with. And I call it, you're just sweeping it under the carpet. Now I understand that. Before I said, we can forget about that. Let's move on. But no, you actually have to go through a healing process to really forget about it.
Yeah. Well, to kind of move through that emotional connection, it's almost like a string. And what I do specifically in my sessions is we look at patterns instead of actual story, events. Because you'll see over time there's a pattern that comes, and it usually starts from from a belief that was downloaded, that was taken in as truth between that birth to 7, or inherited, because that does happen either prenatal, it's imprinted in that last 3 months of pregnancy, or an inherited, and you can carry it down through generations. Like, for instance, I'll give you a great example, is my son struggles with food insecurity. He's never been without food, never had an issue with not having food. We've always had food, but he has a little bit of that belief that there is a lack. So somewhere in my family, which has an Irish background, there was a history of food insecurity, and knowing that my grandfather went through the Great Depression, and there's also, growing up different in not affluent can have that impact into passing that down. So he's even carrying a belief, at this age, he's not ready for PSYCH-K yet, but he's, working with that belief right now. Like when we when we wanted to give food to the food bank and we were collecting all the food, cans of corn and things like that, he looked at me with this fear, like, what if we don't have any food? And, so they start so young, and can be something that's not even ours, not even something that he experienced. But we're carrying these things, and they start very young, and they sort of pattern. So that belief of program of I'm not enough, right? That there's something that I don't have enough of something, a lack of a resource, can really get the body, the subconscious, stuck in that survival pattern. So then things start to happen that give evidence to that. And then we can see over time, like, see bad things do happen to me. See, he did leave me. See that I am not enough. Like, I always say, like, if you have a belief, you'll find evidence to support it, because that's how the body works. Like, it's going to only see the evidence that supports that belief. And that's why those programs can continue over time. And no matter when you kind of realize that, when you come to that awareness of it, you still have them. But that's when PSYCH-K is so beautiful, because it can, then you can say, okay, this isn't mine. It's not helpful anymore.
Right.
And it's solution focused, which is the most amazing part, is that we're not giving more energy to the diagnosis, the disease, the lack, which is what so much of like therapy or psychology has been in the past, is this, we got to find the disease, we got to find the diagnosis, we got to, like, so much time is spent focused on the energy towards putting it towards, this is depression, or this is my this, or this is my anxiety, or this is my ADHD, that it continues to feed that pattern, then, that I lack something, and the energy goes in that. So it completely shifts that energy into the solution, where we're giving the body a different track, a different belief to follow, so that it doesn't have to continue to go down that neural pathway. And a survival response can shift up out of the bottom layers of our subconscious into our conscious realm, and then, as Joanne has always, into the super conscious, where we align all three of those, in the direction of what we desire versus what we're afraid of, what we fear, what we lack. So
yeah, no, I love that, because I do agree with you that we put so much focus on what we don't want. Right. We give so much energy to what we don't want in our life, and it's automatic. So it's not like we intentionally doing it. It's truly the first thing that comes up. If you want to buy a new car, you're like, yeah, well, I can't afford that. Or if you want to do something, you're like, no, I can't do that. So I forget who said it. They say you disqualify yourself before you even give yourself an opportunity, because you're just working from your programs. Because we know 95% of what we do in a given day, if you track it down and you write everything down, it's repetition. It's coming from the subconscious. And you don't even know you're doing that. And I give a great example, like, you get in your car to go to work, and 40 minutes go by, or an hour goes by, and you at work, and you're like, how did I get here? Because your mind was somewhere else while your subconscious mind was taking over the task. So let's talk about that, Joanne. I know you've worked with so many students across the world. Like, what are you seeing once people are really embracing and embodying first PSYCH-K, of course, using PSYCH-K, and then the changes? What have you seen? Because I know you.
Oh my goodness! How long is this program? I've been doing this for 7 years. It's countless across so many different areas, from social anxiety to trauma responses to scarcity consciousness to speaking in public to imposter syndrome. It's across the board. Just like Tanya had mentioned too, it allows the person to access those programs that are running at the subconscious level using muscle testing. Muscle testing is the foundation of all PSYCH-K balance processes. So you're actually able to determine what those programs are, and then in a very short period of time, in a matter of minutes, being able to rewrite those programs. PSYCH-K allows us to create what's called a whole brain state, where we're able to access the full response potential from the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere simultaneously. So it's crossing over the corpus callosum and, firing those new neural pathways, like Tanya had mentioned, and allowing us to download the solution to what it is, the so-called problem, right? And just as you mentioned, so many people focus on what is wrong. And if we just paid attention to our self-talk, if we listen to what we say about ourselves, if we listen to what we say about the world, if we listen to what we just, speak, we can catch ourselves over and over again, basically showcasing what those subconscious programs are. It's all about how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive others, and how we perceive the world. And that dictates our life experience. And when we actually are coming from those lower frequencies, we're creating that reality and seeing that loop come back in the circumstances, and we blame the circumstances, and we don't realize that it's an inside job. And when we change those programs and patterns within us, we then see life around us change. So I just taught a workshop this past weekend, and remarkable changes. One person, it was specific to being able to speak up and express herself. And she during the workshop, she said, I'm not sweating, and I'm actually not like spinning around trying to figure out what it is that I'm going to say. She just spoke so openly and freely. Yes. And another gentleman, he said that when he heard about it 6 years ago, and it finally found his way to come to the program. Although you don't need to take the program to benefit from it, you can have a PSYCH-K session and have remarkable change as well. I started working in private session with people before I became an instructor. If you take the workshop, you then have the tools in your hands to continue to work with yourself. So that's the beauty and the benefit of it. But this gentleman heard about it many years before, and he had a phobia of bridges, where he could not go over a bridge. So he did his investigation and learned all about PSYCH-K and discovered you can change a phobia in a matter of minutes. And he's like, how is this possible? I've had it my whole life. And he came and he transformed his bridge phobia. And what was so beautiful is that not only did he change his route, he drove from Virginia, so he drove 6 hours to come, but he changed his route to go over a bridge and recorded a 60-second video for everybody that witnessed his change. So it's life-changing work. It truly allows us to empower ourselves and to rewrite the limiting beliefs and limiting programs that disempower us, and download into the self-supporting and self-enhancing. Just like Tanya said, it is solution-oriented. The change doesn't have to be difficult. That's a falsity with PSYCH-K. And additionally, too, you don't need to know when and where the program began. You don't have to dig backwards. The subconscious mind knows how to pull that file and change that that reactive response in record time. So it really gives us access to changing ourselves and our life experience.
And I love that because, I don't want to talk about traditional therapies, but you do repeat over and over again the same story until you change your perception of that story. But by the time, what you're actually doing is you're feeding that story, right? You're giving it energy, like you said, Tanya, over and over again. One thing I like to touch upon is, many have told me it is so hard to break a habit. If they're drinking or if they're smoking. I've tried, and I was there. I remember, right? I used to smoke, and I stopped smoking, and it was hard. I will tell you, I stopped smoking when I got that call, right? You have cancer. It was like that cigarette went down immediately. That was an emotional impact. It was like, do I want to live or do I want to die? But it doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to wait for that call. Or something drastic to change. And this is, I want to emphasize on this, that a habit can be broken if you're ready to do the work, the inner work. And whether it's, you're drinking or you're smoking or you're eating because you're trying to, you're just afraid of facing something or the past. Let's talk about that, Tanya, because that is, I think, one of the areas that we're seeing so many people just not feeling worthy of living. Like the mental industry is just it's there's so many people out there that need help.
Yeah.
So.
And I think that is the main issue from my perspective, and having this training and having everything, is that there is a spiritual disconnect. I really think that, we look at mental health, but we're not including in traditional mental health the spiritual aspect of really understanding how to access what is greater than ourselves, what we're connected to in a greater realm. Therapy is getting people out of survival mode. Well, then what? Right? If you're used to being in survival mode for so long, a lot of people don't know what else there is. They get stuck becoming their identity becomes around these things. So, giving up a habit has this easy process but if it's something you're attached to, if there's a secondary gain, and we discussed this PSYCH-K as well, but in traditional psychology, secondary gains will stop hypnosis. They'll stop anything that kind of tries to get down to that subconscious root. But that the beauty of PSYCH-K when it comes to these things is that it's your process. There's not somebody else coming in. You are the one, communing with your spirit, with your subconscious, with that you are having that relationship with yourself and bringing that back to a mind-body alignment. So our eating, drinking, these are very dissociative fight or flight behaviors, right? When we're not connected. So when you're shifting back into that, like coming back to your body and reigniting that spiritual part of yourself, these habits that are no longer serving you tend to fall away. They just don't make sense for what you're aligned with now, what you're moving towards. So a lot of people are like, I want to stop this habit. It's less about stopping the habit and more about getting in line with what you actually want. Like if you want to feel better in your body, if you want to feel more connected to your body, it's not about stopping this behavior and stopping that behavior and stopping getting on the scale and stopping this, because those are just reactions to your beliefs. So, that redirection, that's not me. I don't know what that noise is. That redirection into, the famous question, what do you want instead? What do you want to feel? In that reigniting that connection to your body. So you do want to nurture your body so that you do want to do the things that make you feel alive versus make you feel like you need to survive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that because it's that simple question, right? What do you want instead? Which, at the beginning when I first heard it, and I took all the courses except the retreat. So, as I went through the courses, understanding doesn't have to be a whole story. Understanding you don't have to go backwards. What do you want instead? For example, I'll never forget, going into this field of just doing podcasts and speaking live. Like I came from Italy. I didn't have a voice. I didn't want to speak because I spoke Italian. I got made fun of. I got bullied. It was just like, I'm a girl. Women don't really speak that much at home. Being Italian from the other side, it was like, no, you keep your mouth shut. Obey and respect. So opening up my voice and speaking, that was something that I knew I needed, to change those beliefs that I could open my mouth, I could speak. And doing this process, I mean, Joanne, it happened in your class. It was like the feeling of knowing, why can't I? Who says I can't do it?
Yeah.
changing that perception, and also just feeling free of that worry, that fear, that doubt from within. Because fear and worry and doubt is all inside of us.
Yeah. If I could, yeah, thank you
Yes.
for sharing that. The beautiful thing too that I just want to showcase about PSYCH-K is that, you know, PSYCH-K, or the process of PSYCH-K, doesn't choose what you believe, but it allows you to congruently believe what you choose. You're in the driver's seat. Everybody is so individual.
Yes.
Everybody has their own dreams and desires and ways that they want to be living life. And it allows you to exactly do that, you know, to be able to change what it is that isn't working for you into something that is going to support you. Everybody it's for every session, every workshop, it's organic. There's no recipe. There's
Right.
no one size fits all. This is the program
Right.
for depression, or this is a program for anxiety. It really is such an organic, beautiful process that allows us to access programs in record time. I mean, I know that I've said that a few times, but it's true. I mean, in a matter of minutes, we're able to witness people change these trauma responses that they've had for decades and decades in such a short period of time. So
That's beautiful. So we're going to take a short break, and we'll just share some more stories how PSYCH-K is really helping humanity as a whole. We'll be right back.
thank you.
In a world of constant motion and ceaseless distractions, finding a moment of peace can feel like an elusive luxury. The allure of technology, the demands of everyday life, and the perpetual rush often pull us into a whirlwind of chaos, leaving little room for quiet reflection. Where success is often equated with hustle and grind, there exists a longing for something more. Could there be another way? Well, in 1967, the famous author Napoleon Hill answered this very question. He published his final book, Grow Rich with Peace of Mind. He discovered that true success isn't just about accumulation. It's about finding harmony within oneself and with the world around us. One that honors both ambition and inner peace. Rediscover Napoleon Hill's timeless wisdom. Think and Grow Rich with Peace of Mind, an online event that dares to challenge the frenetic rhythm of our modern world.
Yeah, I love his work is all about really understanding your mind, the power of the mind, because in the mind, the thoughts begin in the mind, right? So when we can change the way we think, we can really change our world, like the way we think, and changing the perception of many things that we are made to believe. Some things are not like we said before. Some of our beliefs are not even our beliefs. And when we start changing, especially the beliefs about ourselves, this is where we truly get connected to understanding who we are and what we can do if we are willing to do the work. So let's talk about other testimonies that Joanne, that you know, I don't know, I think Tanya left off with you, other testimonies that you can share with us from your clients?
Yeah, so I've had clients that have struggled multiple different health diagnoses in terms of pain and MS, fibromyalgia, like all the autoimmune, all the things that, you know, are deeply related to in a conflict within the body. So that idea of that the body is attacking itself from, you know, in a lot of these things, you know, are not treated by doctors at the same level that the clients are getting any kind of relief. So when they are coming in and they're, you know, at this place of like really ready to kind of experience like, okay, I don't want this anymore. Like, this is something that is not the direction I want to go. Like, they are able to kind of lean into PSYCH-K. They're lean into this this connection. They have had remarkable successes in terms of being functioning and independent. We have one client who came off of her disability completely that she had been on since she was 20 years old, and she is now went from being disabled to she's now working at a museum, like a famous museum, and walking around and up and down 7 flights of stairs, like, and she she said, like, if you would have told me, a year ago that this would be my life, I wouldn't have believed you. Like, I just wouldn't have believed you. But it happened through experiences. It happened through her being, open to the process. And other clients who have gone from really not wanting to live. Like, as a psychologist, this is where I tend to get a little bit deeper in terms of some of the things that are coming up, is that core conflict with life, of, that idea that they don't even want to live. They are at a place of feeling that darkness and that pain, and being able to lean into this process where they can experience that light, experience the ability to empower themselves,
Right.
to say, okay, like, I'm sitting with all of these beliefs that, like I said, might not even be theirs. It might be generational trauma that's been passed down, or it might be something that happened. And when I think of beliefs, it's not just the thoughts as much as it is the code around an emotional event that happened to us. So the event then had to code what it means about ourselves. So you can have somebody that was in a car accident and say, that was really crappy, I never want to go through that again. And then somebody that was in a car accident and say, I'm at risk, I'm going to die, I'm going to be in pain. Like, what we code about ourselves based on what has happened to us. So finding, those beliefs that are attached to the emotional cords, I guess, is really kind of what I specialize in, is pulling up to the surface, so that then they can shift, those beliefs into what they want instead. And seeing those stories kind of fold out from anywhere from health and issues to eating disorders to weight, sexual identity, like, has been, like, people are struggling so much with that. And then being able to have this sort of freedom and have their body back and have their own sexual identity in a world where society, very, very uncaring, that empowerment. And from then you see this beautiful sort of pattern start of experience after experience after experience that gives them that confidence, aligned with that belief. So, that is a lot of what I see, is when we're pulling from the really root of what emotional cord these beliefs are tied to. Because we could all believe, like, oh, I believe I'm going to win $1 million, and you can say that until you're blue in the face. But pulling down into that area where you're pulling up why it's important, like, where is that coming from? What's, so that you kind of get that core belief, and then you're able to transform it. It's a fluid process. And I have a lot of clients who are resistant, and I'll say that as a psychologist, that's where I kind of work on both realms. Is there are some clients who they're like, nope, I'm not even going to do it because I know it's going to work. And they're just, they're still in that phase where they just need that trust and connection. So, but it's like, no, I'm not ready to do that yet. And that's okay. That's the resistance that, as a psychologist, I work with. But for the clients who are ready to step into that, it has been a beautiful transition for them to have their life back.
Absolutely.
Not even back, new. Like, it's not even It's just
Right.
this whole
Exactly.
yeah.
Right. Take back what you are truly given, right? Because it was yours to begin with.
Yeah.
But through all these experiences that we have in life, we just become something different. We become something that we're not. So absolutely, I can vouch that Psych-K is definitely a process that gives you your life back for sure. I had it reminds me of a client that I had who didn't feel loved by her family. And one time she said she went to a dinner or lunch with her mom, and she says her and I had absolutely not one word to say to each other. She's like, what mother and daughter go out for dinner and cannot have nothing to say? So we did a Psych-K balance, and then she said, oh my God, my mom was teaching me how to love. That was so profound. Like, I wanted to be in tears, but I know I couldn't. But that was like, I'm being taught. Now, instead of looking at it as like, my mom doesn't love me, the perception was changed to, she's teaching me what love means. Right. And from that, their relationship got better because she viewed it from a different perspective.
Yeah. Perspective is so much, right?
That's
so
it.
very much. Yeah. Absolutely.
Joanne, I'd like to talk about that Tanya mentioned about secondary gains, right? And I took the course with Duccio as well. But let's talk a little bit about that, because I do see some of my clients not letting go of something because there is a gain. And in my family as well. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, and Tanya can probably, give a little bit of the clinical background relative to secondary gain. It's essentially that, I have a desire for this, but there's a secondary benefit that keeps the old program running into place. That there's an advantage to keep the old program running. So say, for instance, if somebody was abused, if they were thin, and they put on this weight for protection, and they have this desire to lose the weight, and they've tried all these different processes and all these different, methods, and they're not losing the weight. If they have a program at the subconscious level that it's not safe for them to lose the weight, they're not going to lose the weight, because the advantage of holding that weight outweighs the benefit of the fear, response. So it's one of those, situations where if the program isn't changing, we have to take an honest look to say, is there an advantage to holding on to this program that supports us in a way that changing the program, does not? So that's like the simple version of secondary gains. Yeah. I mean, it definitely plays in part. It's not something that, we have to look at in the beginning at all, because so many programs are changeable and so many patterns are accessible. The simplistic way to view Psych-K is, imagine that Psych-K is like a keyboard to your subconscious mind. You get to download those new programs into your subconscious mind. And also too, I want to just, mention, we've talked about, limiting beliefs and programs, but there is this process within Psych-K that's called transform the perception of stress. Yes. And this is a game changer. This is the the big aspect that allows us to take any experiences, whether it was being told in the 4th grade that you're terrible at math, or you're not good enough, or I worked with a woman who, the little boy behind her, sitting at the desk, told her that she was fat and ugly when she was in elementary school, and believed that until she was in her 50s, until she changed that program. So, oftentimes we ruminate over experiences. We think about different, things that we were, told, or even just judgments of ourselves. If we experienced something and then we started, the inner critic can be very loud and saying, well, that was terrible, or you're stupid, or any of these programs. you're able to change those in a remarkably fast way, where you're essentially cutting the live wire to the reactive response and going whole brain into a state of peace and non-attachment. So, when I'm working with somebody, oftentimes we start with, well, what is the stressors that are happening in your life? What is robbing you of the peace that you're feeling right now? And being able to deactivate those programs then opens up the idea and the perspective to what it is that they want to be in the experience of. So often we're focused on what's wrong. We're focused on what isn't working. And when we deactivate those responses, now we have mental acuity. We have the ability to think clearly. We have the ability to be present and not in this reactive response and stress response that so many people live in.
Right.
So safety is a big deal. That's a big deal. And one of the first things that I experienced when I took the basic workshop, and it was kind of secondary. I didn't realize that it was that I hadn't felt safe, was I suffered from insomnia for almost 10 years. I barely slept, from 1.5 to 3.5 hours a night. And when I left that workshop, I, for the first time in 10 years, actually slept like a baby. But what I truly believed was that for the first time that I had the access to knowing who I was as a spiritual being, I had access to that, innate wisdom. I had access to me. I was no longer looking for the answers outside of myself. I now was entering into who I am and what makes me who I am. And everything changed, everything changed in my life. So, and it continues to change. That's the beautiful thing. Is like
you took your power back. You empowered yourself in every way.
Yes.
I wanted to quickly talk about, the 7 categories of change, right? Because there's many. So let's get into that a little bit, Tanya. Mm-hmm. So we got relationships.
Yeah, I'll rattle them off.
Right.
Yes, categories of change that are in the basic workshop: self-esteem, personal power, relationships, prosperity, spirituality, and hold on. Health and body, spirituality, grief and loss. Grief and loss.
Yes.
Grief and loss.
So let's talk about relationship, because relationship is, we're all interconnected. Whether it is a relationship with the family member, a relationship with your husband, your wife, grandparents, children, a lot of grief comes from there. And I know have clients that a lot of it, they're coming here with the problems that occurred in their relationship with their loved ones. Tanya, how do you work with your clients when they come to you in that way?
Well, that's a great question, because a lot of our relationships are reflections of us. Like we are, looking for something. And one of the main things that I went into the master's facilitation workshop with was releasing expectations, because we have so high of ego expectations on ourselves, and those are either mimicked or reversed in others. So like when we really want to work on relationships, the first thing is to work on yourself. I mean, it is, you could go down years and years and years of trying to analyze a relationship, and you're just going to loop and loop and loop and loop, because you're seeing that relationship from your perspective, and you are seeing what needs attachment that you've placed on that relationship. And until you can really start to kind of get internally in that place where you are able to have the emotional experiences, to connect with yourself, you're going to be searching, just like Joanne said, for that external person or that external thing to complete that relationship. And it doesn't mean that you can't have a healthy relationship. Like you can have a loving relationship, but to truly be in that relationship with compassion, with vulnerability is to really kind of be with yourself in that first. So whenever somebody comes to me with, relationship, we go right back to that looking at, what they feel they're missing, and then shifting that into, what they want instead. But it's when I have clients who are used to the traditional methods, it can be a bit of a shift to redirect, because we do get, like you said, into that story, but you don't understand. This is different. This is different. And now, having been through PSYCH-K and having, really kind of dove into the world of somatic and energy psychology, it's not. It's like it's a pattern. It's a pattern. And a lot of, we jump into things kind of wanting something that we have an expectation. I want to save this. I want to save this. I want to protect this. I want to, and that can sort of feed it, where when we truly come back to ourselves, what we really want are these emotional experiences. That's what our body is meant to have, these, and what our mind pictures of what we need to have these emotional experiences can be much different.
Thank you. Yes, no, I truly believe that. We're going to take it for a landing. Joanne, last final words with PSYCH-K?
Again, like I said, it's a gift to humanity. Look into it. If you're open and curious, check it out. You won't be sorry.
Yeah,
Life-changing.
You can contact any of us, where we all can do the work. And if you're looking to take a course, of course, Joanne is the instructor. Thank you, everyone. I promise you, if you try this, you will give us a phone call back and say, thank you so much, because it is definitely a life changer if you try it. I appreciate you ladies joining me today. And thank you for sharing your love, your compassion for this work. And I know that you're changing lives. And I know that's what we're here to do. So thank you again, and I appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for watching Sparking Change with Gigi. I'm your host, Giovanna Tartarone, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change with Gigi. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchangenow.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change with Gigi.